The real estate sector is the backbone of most economies, definitely of developing economies, even of developed economies. The sector has the capacity to create jobs for about 300 sectors. I mean, think home improvement, furniture, cement, a whole host of ancillary industries are supported by real estate. And in a country like India, it has the capacity to create anything like 5 to 6 lakh crore jobs. So important for an underemployed country like India. And yet, for practically half a decade now, the industry has been facing challenges in India. It was mounting debt as we came out of the boom period of 2003 to 2010. And thereafter, there have been a series of problems, high interest rates of 2013. And then we went on to demonetization, and then the GST era, and now COVID. The problems of the industry are not ebbing away. The government has done its bit for the economy in terms of this 20 lakh crore package, but the direct assistance has been only for small scale industry and maybe MSMEs. There isn't any loosening of the purse strings for real estate companies. Interest rates have fallen, but they have fallen more for AAA companies and maybe the government, not really reached the shores of real estate companies. So what can the government do to pull out the sector which can give succor to a lot of other ancillary industries as well as provide a whole host of jobs? To discuss that, I have with me an elite panel today. I have with me Satish Magar, the president of Credai and the MCHI. I also have with me Anuj Puri, the think tank of the panel, if you please. He heads ANAROC, which is a leading database for the industry. And we have with us Ajay Ashar, the man who would know exactly where the shoe pinches. He is the chairman and managing of the Ashar Group. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Mr. Magar, let me start with you. If you can lay out the problem, how many fully built inventory is the industry languishing with, which can be, sold off if home loans become attractive? What is the almost built, 90% there kind of houses, and what are the half built? If you can lay out the problem, then we can talk solutions.
We have been going through a lot of pain for over half a decade now. And now we have this COVID position which has come in. Now we are trying to, see the light at the end of the tunnel post-COVID. Now, what are the problems which are really hitting us? Debt. Why? Look at the interest rates which were charged to the developers. 2x security, maximum interest rates. So the banks, I think all the balances of the bank are flourishing because of the interest rates charged to us. What we want is the lowering of the interest rate. The Reserve Bank of India is doing its bit, but the financial institutions are shying away from that. Why they are doing this? Because if nation building has to happen, it has to happen through everybody, not only us. The second issue is how do you bring in the customer sentiment back? What can we do then? How do we reduce the stamp duty rates? Whether they can get home loans at a cheaper rate, whether they can have more incentives in the Income Tax Act so that they get enthused to buy. These are the things which need to come out, and unless and until they come out, I think we are not going to start at all. There is going to be a lot of problem. One-time restructuring is something which Ajay will speak in detail. We are not saying that you waive out the interest on us. We are not saying you waive out the loans to us. We need time. And this time can be given, or there's going to be a literally, bloodbath which you can see in the market. There are certain provisions of the Income Tax Act. You look at 50CA and 43CA, where even if I want to sell cheap, I cannot sell cheap. So on one side, we have a whole lot of advisors who keep on advising us to reduce the rate. And the other side, we have a prohibitive clause in income tax, which is as good as, or at places even more than the market rate, which just prohibits us to sell. So, we are in this situation where, GA to KCGA, that is the way we are in now.
As you say, let's put out the contours of the problem first. Since you handed over the baton to Anuj, I'll go to him. Anuj, what is the size of the problem in terms of fully built, almost built, and yet to reach halfway? How much money does it need and in which area?
So there are two problems in that area. One is on the incomplete under construction inventory. What is it that the solution needs to be done? And the second one is, which is a smaller problem and perhaps a very easy problem, is the completed unsold inventory. What needs to be done on that is, I think completed unsold inventory, I agree with Mr. Magar, is that there are some punitive clauses within the income tax that needs to be rectified, one. And second, I briefly touched this, that you should allow FDI to come in to buy completed residential inventory, which today is not allowed, which is about 50,000 crores. The other one, which is under construction, and this is under construction units, is maybe 6.5 lakh units, which are under construction. To our mind, Lata, this will start to get into problem if the government is not going to look at it, and which means 6.5 lakh potential home buyers will get into some kind of a problem if the solutions, which we will discuss later on this show, are not really adhered. So that is the problem. So one is the potential, that it has a huge potential to boost the GDP and a huge potential on the employment and other industries. But more importantly, if it is not really taken care, then there is a potential problem of 6.5 lakh home buyers that may get stuck.
Fair point. Okay, well, now let me come to the man who knows where the shoe pinches. Mr. Ashar, if you could tell us, is it that the ready reckoner rates are the issue, that they are totally unrealistic? Is it the GST issue? What is bothering in terms of, seriousness of the problem? Can you lay out the top three problems?
Yeah. Lata, first let me tell you, the biggest problem that I feel is the sensitivity of the government towards the real estate sector. I feel the government has to be really sensitized regarding the problem that we are facing. The hugeness of the industry has been clearly told by Anuj, but the government is still not looking at the players who are in it. I will just give you a small example how all this petition that we have filed all started. On the day 20 lakh crore project, the 20 lakh crore package was declared. All the real estate players were expecting some things to revive, or that will make them survive. I started receiving around 500 calls on that same evening that nothing is coming to us, only for 6 months. The PERA extension is the only thing that has come. Nothing is coming to us, and we are 100% sure that we will not be able to survive. Our appeal to the Honorable PM, our appeal to the government is, please look at us. We are right now in a very difficult phase. Sales are not happening. The either way for us to raise money is either through sales or further debts. Debts nobody is going to give us. We are only raising money from NBFCs because banks are not at all giving any money to us. So the cost of the debt is very high, as a result of which the shoe is pinching everywhere to the developer. He has no way to go. How will he raise money and what will he do? On this background, I may say in our petition we have listed out so many points which is towards the central government. If you do that, then and only then we will be able to survive. It's a question of small-time developers who can really survive. The big pockets, the deep pockets may be able to survive. But 3,000 developers in MMR region, for them it is impossible to survive if the right actions are not taken. And that has been now taken over by Satish ji all over India, because the pain is all over India.
Yeah, absolutely. I get your point that, maybe in some pockets like Bengaluru, the pain is a little less because the IT industry is still flourishing and there is demand. But elsewhere in the country, with the slowdown only getting worse, the problems have also gotten terrible. We need to take a quick break. And thereafter, I want you to enlist what are the quick fix solutions and the long-term solutions for the real estate space. Welcome back to this very special chat we are having with the biggies of the real estate space. We have been speaking with Mr. Satish Magar of the Credai MCHI. We have been speaking with Anuj Puri of Anarock and with Mr. Ajay Ashar, the Chairman Managing Director of Ashar Group, a well-known realty company. Well, gentlemen, we have some idea of the amount, the quantum of unsold homes and the amount of money that can go into NPA. let's now look for solutions. Mr. Ashar, let me start from where you left off. You tell us, first let us look at what the central government has to do. We will then come to state government and RERA, but what are you expecting from the central government?
From the central government, we have listed in our charter of demand. One is that restructuring is the most important issue right now. As I mentioned, how will the developers start repaying the interest? Because otherwise the position will come where all the developers will en masse to become NPA. There is no other way. If restructuring is not done, because you have to pay your principal and your interest with no sales coming in, so it is impossible for us to do that. And I may put forward that government is listening to us. The moment Devendra Fadnavis ji, we addressed him, he tweeted to Madam, and FM Madam responded that they are with an open mind. Our request is only, please keep your mind open and please give us space and hear us out. Second is interesting, once we survive, once we are able to survive, then we go on to the revival thing. And on the revival thing, what we use, the most important for us is to get sales. For getting sales, what is important is getting the interest rate lower. How do we induce the buyers to, in a short period of time, in say 3 months, 6 months, come towards buying, give them some incentives, like the interest rate for the home buyer, make it at 5% or 6%. Ask the banks to pass on the benefits to the developers also. The repo rate has come down from 6.5 to 4, but there is no plausible impact to us. Our rates are still at 14% plus, which is a very big blow to us. So the cost is going up. Then we have asked as Magarji told, the capital gains tax can be reduced and can be made it for a period longer than 1 year. The ATC can be the interest rate can be, that is capped at 2 lakh, can be increased. Putting these 3-4 points, which will be for the revival of the market.
Yeah, 1 minute. I just want to point out that restructuring is something which I'm sure the central government is requesting the central bank to do, but this is something which RBI has to listen. And this is not to speak for the action or whatever, but already there is a case in the court where the moratorium guys are asking for a waiver. So the Reserve Bank is in a bit of a bind. My own sense is that by August we should be hearing something about restructuring. At least for some sectors it's most likely to come. So restructuring perhaps should be round the corner, but that is a very strong ask, not just from the real estate space, but travel, tourism, just about everyone, even manufacturing. Let me come to Satish now, Mr. Magar on that. Mr. Magar, is there something that, what about the ready reckoner rates? One of the reasons why there are people who are willing to buy homes or buy commercial real estate space, but there is so much of a difference between the ready reckoner rate and the actual price in the market, that it looks like the person has got an inexplicable income and he is taxed on it. So anything else other than the restructuring and interest rate which
yeah, see, we have ready reckoner rate is a state issue. So we have asked all our state bodies, including the Maharashtra government, Maharashtra body, to appeal to the state government that at least for 1 year you reduce the ready reckoner rate by 20-25%. So if I have inventory, if I can afford to sell it at the cheaper rate, I can do it and liquidate that, and even the buyer gets the incentive, of buying at a lower rate. So this is what we are requesting the state governments to do. The second issue which is really pinching this industry is GST. I think real estate is the only industry which has got no input tax credit available at all. It is required. See, the rate goes up substantially if I don't get the input tax credit. We need to get it. So if we get that input tax credit, I think the benefit will certainly be passed on to the buyer. I agree with your point that the government doesn't want to project itself to be pro-rich. We don't want them to project themselves as pro-rich. We want them to project as pro-consumer. And if they are going to project themselves with pro-consumer, the input tax credit, the rate, cartelization of construction material prices. Cement rates have no control. I mean, you want to control everyone. You want to strangulate us with capital, with the interest rates, but nobody mentions a word about why the cement prices are going up. Every day they are going up as if the stock market is on the run, on the bull run. Nobody talks to them. I mean, somebody should tell them also something. What is the reason? If there's no demand, the industry is sick, but their prices are going up. I think these things need to be bought in, and I think it's very important that the GST input tax credit, the ready-reckoner rate of at least 25% for 1 year. Don't do it perpetually. I know all the government levies are dependent on ready-reckoner rate. Do it for 1 year. Give it a try. See what happens. I think the government will get more revenue out of it because a lot of inventory will get sold off at a rate which is rational in the market today. And the third most important thing is cartelization of the big boys. I think that also needs to be controlled.
On interest rates, I just wanted to add to Mr. Ashar that even the government is paying much more than 5%. At this point in time, there is a concerted effort to cut interest rates, but even 10-year Government of India bond yields are going at 5.9 after all those rate cuts. So it will take a while before it comes to single digits for anybody other than AAA borrowers. Only AAA borrowers are getting it in single digits. But I'm hoping that the transmission will happen. Anuj, you brought in the extraordinary point of FDI. Can you develop on it?
So, Lata, I think it's been very well articulated, the problem by Mr. Magar and Mr. Ashar. I'm saying is, let's just focus on the demand for the time being. How do we boost up the demand? And 4 or 5 things. First is the first-time home buyer. Can you and I quite like what Mr. Magar said is, for a period of time, for a short period of time, maybe 1 year, 2 years, can you give him some tax incentive, the first-time home buyer? Second is, you have unsold completed inventory. Can you allow FDI to come in? Third is, Lata, you said in your opening statement that the government is more looking at affordable housing. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, can you expand the definition? Today the MIG-1, MIG-2 is identified as 12 lakhs and 18 lakhs. These are too small for a city like Bombay or Pune to be able to deliver it. Can you enlarge that definition in terms of the quantum of monies? The next one, on the home loan, it's very well articulated. And the last that I would say is, clearly, and the economy be kick-started, because if there are more jobs that get created, there's going to be necessarily more houses that would get sold. So I would just say we just want the demand to be focused, anything to do on the demand. And one point I agree, what Mr. Magar said is on the GST, that, I don't know any other sector which does not allow the input credit as a pass-through to go through, but unfortunately real estate does not have a pass-through status. So, can you allow that will help bring down the prices.
Okay. Well, I think you'll have put in a comprehensive set of points for the government to tackle. And as you say, once the economy recovers, then the sheer certainty of a job and the certainty that your pay will not be cut can enthuse consumers to go ahead and buy the first house. Why even the second house? I mean, take a point entirely on that. Just to reiterate the key points that the real estate industry is asking of the central bank rather than central government is that restructuring of loans be allowed simply because they are faced with an unnatural situation, and it helps no one to have a mountain of NPAs and those projects cannot be continued. But outside of that, the important ones are really administrative issues. The ready reckoner is supposed to reflect the market price, and if market prices have fallen for want of demand, changing the ready reckoner rates is something that you should ask for. Tax incentives for those who are willing to buy is not going to be a big loss to the exchequer, because what you lose by way of taxes, you will make up by way of general improvement in the economy when more houses are built and sold. And finally, FDI. I take your point entirely. Anuj, the FDI rule not allowing them to come was put in at a time when land prices were running up in Mumbai and Delhi and in several other cities, and the central government did not want competition for the ordinary home buyer from a foreign buyer who would always have deep pockets. But now the situation is entirely standing on its head. The home buyer who has probably given the first lot of money is in danger of losing homes if the entire real estate industry collapses. So perhaps it makes sense to think of FDI differently in the current situation. Anuj, Mr. Magar and Mr. Ashar, thank you very much for what's a very constructive conversation. We hope the powers that be hear you out.